Hello and welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
Let's do this. Can you believe it, Josh, that when we started that, I used to have to read that intro? I had it written out and I had to read it every time. And now I just say it. I don't know where I'm going with this, but that's what happened.
Yeah, it kind of just fell off there what you were trying to say, but yeah, you fall into the patterns of things and you learn them.
Well, the reason it made me think of it because I always go dedicated to Dungeons and Dragons, and it's like da, you know? And so I was like, maybe we should write a new one. Maybe I should change things up.
Go for it.
What would our new intro be? Hello, welcome to Dungeoneered, a podcast dedicated to discussing
creative world building and...
Because, we do a lot more than just Dungeons and Dragons, you know?
Yeah, it's none of our stuff needs to be specialized on Dungeons and Dragons in any way.
Yeah.
The only way that we do...
So now I'm having, a midlife podcast crisis, you know?
Hopefully. I'm just crossing my fingers here. This is not the midlife of our podcast, because we haven't been doing it very long, my guy.
True. I guess I have to come up with another term, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. So, lukewarm open?
Yeah, let's go to that.
Okay, well, for this week's lukewarm open, I wanted to stick with our theme that we've been doing for the last 8 weeks now, which is just kind of diving into our mindset when we're creating different things in our world. And I wanted to do one that is probably one of my favorite things to make in D&D and favorite things to roleplay in D&D, and that would be a cult and cult leaders and religious figures, or just in general churches and religions in general. And so I wanted your opinion on what you think of cults/religions and what purposes do those play in your games, if any, because I know some people don't do that at all.
Well, religions and such are very important in real life.
Oh yeah,
they were instrumental to how a lot of things developed. So that means, in terms of creating realistic world building, I need them to be important to that. So I need them to be important to developing nations and things in my world in the same way they are in real life. So I like to create a few different types of cults. So there's the cults that kind of hide themselves away. They're solitary. They just kind of slowly bring people into the fold, but they're not main stage players. Then there's the cults that are trying for political power, that are slowly making friends with higher ups and worming their way into the governmental structure of a nation. And then there's the kill everything, blood sacrifices cult.
The classic cult.
Yeah.
So when making making, let's say, religious figures or, people within this organization, what do you look for? What kind of thing are you going for? I know it's going to vary depending on what organization, what god they serve, but what do you kind of look for in these leaders?
Charisma. And not just in D&D terms, but in actually how they interact with the world, kind of charisma.
Just going off this before we continue, do you use cults a lot in your games, or even religions? Do you use them a lot? Are they something people interact with a lot?
Depends on the story. Depends on what story we're going through. If it's going to be a story where it's gods versus man or whatever, then yes, religions have to be very important. If it's ones where it's a dude trying to ascend to godhood, then yes, religions can be important. If it's one where it really just depends on where the story's going. Or if one of the characters wants their backstory to be super religious focused, and then that needs to be in a major point of the story they go through as well.
Right. Do you have in your worlds, do religions typically have a lot of power or no?
I think there's a lot of them in my worlds that are vying for political power. So they are trying to expand themselves to have greater power, because that is what we see a lot of times in history. Places where religion is very strong, they work really hard to make sure those high up religious figures also have high up political power.
Does this, so like when you're creating then like a religion, because in my world's religion is always very important, pretty much almost always, especially in like a D&D and a fantasy world where the gods are so like real. um I always have them as a very important major role within society, and then they even in some cases, depending on the society, make laws and change governments. So I was just wondering if you like to do that, or if you like a less religious game.
I like to have a little bit of everything in my worlds. Like, because if you think about our world, they vary so much from nation to nation to nation. So there's going to be some where it's almost like a theocracy. Or maybe it is a theocracy. In other places where it's a magocracy. So the kind of religion is in the background where magic is put to the front. Or it could be places where there was a bunch of like crusades and wars over religion. So they have all gone super far in the opposite direction of even hating, and any outright religious event or people are shunned or ostracized for it.
No, I think those are really good, important things. But I don't know. I almost every nation that I create in D&D, maybe this is just me, is usually pretty heavily religious, just because again, at least in my world, and it depends, I guess, on the gods in people's worlds, but in my worlds, the gods are always very active. In like you have a cleric who can heal people and cast spells and shoot magic and do all these really cool things. So it's like really hard for me as like a person to like see a fantasy world where the gods are so active and not have religion be a major part. The only way I see that, which you did bring up, is like a magocracy where like they just focus more on magic than anything else. Because otherwise, I feel like religion would just be like very, very prominent and very.
I think you're saying one thing that doesn't have to always be the case. I don't think the gods always need to be present.
No, agreed, absolutely.
I think there are worlds where
totally
gods are about as non-interactive, or at least is seemingly non-interactive, as our world can appear, where there is a bunch of competing ideas and nobody knows who's right. Like, there's not this god literally allows their people to cast magic and do fireball and crazy things, so they're clearly the real one.
Right, totally. I think
like
the reason
in my current campaign is the whole point is that there is a whole group of people called Order of the Faithful, where their whole thing is they are clerics and paladins and such. They don't know where they get it from, though. And nobody does. And so these are specific cleric paladins and such that are searching for what is out there, because why are we getting this? Why is this magic here? Like, this clearly isn't the same as arcane magic. Who is giving this to us? Why?
Do you, when creating world, do you normally have a world where it's kind of what you're describing, where people don't really know? Or do you normally have a world where people do know and they know about the gods, or at least think they know about the gods?
So I've done 3 major worlds so far. 2 of them were gods are known. The first one was gods are known and gods don't super interact with the world. Like, they exist, this, I'm a cleric of this god, but they don't speak a lot to the world. They don't speak to their clerics or paladins. They just give them powers, and then they do what they will with the powers. The second one was
from up top of Mountain Olympus and just kind of chill.
Yes. And the second one was these are called primordials, and these primordials are different from gods because they are literally always physically on this world. Like, they don't have they have a other plane that they control, but that came later in their development. So they have established homes and life on this world. And part of the conflict that came about was because, hey, you literally live on this world. Why aren't you more active? Like, why don't you care about how it's developing? And their whole thing was like, we set up the pieces as we wanted them. We don't want to destroy your free will. We want you to do as you will. we'll help you when we can, but we're not like going to actively change how the world is developing. And so part of the storyline was that the party and like this group that asked them for help was trying to force the gods or these primordials to be more active.
Have you ever
Because
made have you ever made a world like where gods so cuz this second world kind of like is I don't want to say a fine line, but have you ever made like a world where like a god is like actively walking through the streets type thing and people like are in reverence of that kind of stuff, or have you never had a world that active?
well, no, that's what the second one was, but
Right.
they were that active, they were that physically there, but they were still passive bystanders in terms of
Okay,
what
yeah,
they
that's
actually
kind of
did.
what that's
So
what I
they
was trying to get
were
at. Yeah, are they like super active or are they just more passive in their like, you know, the way that
um
they're in the world?
I don't know if there can be interesting enough stories it, that are not specifically centered around gods if you have them so fully present and active. Because if there's somebody who could just stop the bad guy with a snap of their fingers and they've been present through the rest of the story, you're going to have a really good explanation of for why they don't.
I mean, I guess it depends on A, the god, like how strong the god is, B, the personality of the god. Like if the god just doesn't care, then we
Hmm.
obviously have differences, but I don't know cuz in my world there's quite a few of that, well, not quite a few, but there's a few of those that are very very present, I guess would be the correct term, like very present and intentional in the things that they do, in the way that they go about impacting and changing the world.
Hmm.
And so I was just curious if you like doing that kind of thing, and like would you even consider doing something like that where they are very very involved?
I would, but I think the major thing that I kind of in conclusion to what I was saying previously would be that it would have to be a smaller story, and I like bigger stories. So by the end, the my stories are they're saving the whole world by doing whatever it is. And I like that. I think that's really fun to be like by 20th level you're saving. But if I wanted it to be, oh, gods are super active in this world, then I would just say, hey, we're gonna have our campaign and it's all gonna be stuck in this one city, or like it's gonna be a heavily like this one nation based story. So that there would be a reason why, hey, if these gods care about this world and they literally walk it, they don't have any reason to step in and save a nation. It's just a nation on this planet. They care about care about the whole world. So I would have to make it so there was a reason why they would avoid it, why it wouldn't be necessary for them to step in.
Got it. I guess that the difference between like my world and then like this line of thought is that the gods in my world, when they're very present, are diminished. Does that make sense? So like in their own territory, in their own plane, they are like all powerful. But when they're not in their own plane, they're very diminished in how they can appear and how they can interact. Um,
That's how D&D
so
does it too, with
right,
avatars.
yeah,
Still super
which I think is
powerful,
a
but weaker.
oh for sure, and I think that's a good. I don't know because it just suits the D&D world so well, which is because D&D, I guess, like you were saying, is made that way. It's just like it suits it really well, and then it just like adds, in my opinion, it adds for more like, I mean, obviously you know, in depth world building with religion, obviously, which religion can be incredibly scary to build in in a world for sure because it's a really big, especially if you have a huge pantheon. It can be really really intimidating.
Mm.
But I think at least in my campaigns, it's always been and probably will continue to be for. I do like the idea of like a non-religious world where it's like very people just don't know or don't care if the gods exist. I've never done that especially in D&D. I've never done that. So I think it could be very interesting to do something like that.
Hmm.
I just then like I guess you'd have to figure out what clerics and paladins and stuff what they're how they're getting their powers, you know?
Well, so that's why I had it be like the gods still exist, but more as a sort of energy that is partially sentient. Because they've been destroyed, quotation marks destroyed, but it's impossible to kill a god. So the gods probably in this world will eventually reform, but as of right now, they're just energy that exists. So
It's like a nebulous.
yes, and they kind of can
energy.
still give the power of cleric and paladin things to the people, but they are not able to talk and engage in the world. At this point in my story, the party has met a god. He's like the last surviving actual still formed god.
So then, before I guess we wrap up the lukewarm open because it's getting a little long, my next question would be: do you like things like visions and dreams? Because I know that kind of plays a little bit with like religion and stuff like that. Do you like doing that for players?
I love
Do you
it.
not like doing that for player? You love it?
A fun way of teasing things ahead of time.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do in D&D in particular, because it's like just such a fun like storytelling moment, especially the ones where you have like the player can like do stuff within the dream and they're supposed to like do stuff and figure stuff out within the dream. I think those are really, really fun. All right, cool. Well, that's all I got for lukewarm open.
Cool. Well, let's go from talking about gods and deities in D&D to talking about gods and deities in D&D.
Seriously?
Yes.
You know, it kills me because
go for it.
I was gonna say it kills me because we never plan these things, but they always seem to like work somehow.
Sometimes they do, yeah. No, so this week I wanted to create more nations after our season 4's Sundering. And I was thinking of creating disparate nations that are joined by a faith. So gods and deities. I looked for an interesting deity that we could talk about, and I was reminded of one of my favorite gods of the drow, Eilistraee, or Eilistraee. I have been
even heard of him.
I have been pronouncing her name as Eilistraee for a long time, but when I was reading the article, it looks like it's supposed to be pronounced Eilistraee, and so I might switch between the two. So just a heads up.
Well, I have no idea how either of them are pronounced. I've never even heard of this god.
Now, when I say drow deity, the first name to pop into most people's head is what, Aaron?
I don't know.
Don't even know the most... Wow, okay. Lolth.
Ah, okay. Yep.
The queen of spiders.
Rings a bell. Rings a bell.
Also known as the queen of the demon web pit. She was made... Brutal. Yeah, she's made a name for herself by being one of the most powerful gods to the drow. She is the leader of the dark pantheon of the elves called the Dark Seldarin. Well, Eilistraee is not only very different from Lolth, she is a chaotic good where Lolth is a chaotic evil. She doesn't seek...
the opposite.
Yeah, she doesn't seek her own growth, but seeks to bring about the best for the drow. And the biggest reveal about her is that she is Lolth's daughter.
Family drama.
Yep. Now, there's been a problem in recent years where things that don't seem to make sense for any sentient race in D&D are being called out. For example, orcs all being evil and the drow all being evil. Now, this is definitely wrong, but them being one way or the other is purely the way it is seen/shown in source books. But from long ago, in this case, 2nd edition, a lot of these examples have nuance hidden inside there. And Eilistraee is one of those for the drow. Because since 2nd edition, her whole goal has been to show her mother and the drow that there is another way, that they don't need to have a culture of evil like her mother wants. She fights to change this drow culture. Eilistraee is the goddess of beauty, song, dance, freedom, moonlight, sword work, and hunting. She's also
that's a pretty big spread.
It is. She's also a symbol for the drow who want to return to the surface and live at peace with the other races, because there are plenty of those that want that. Eilistraee was born to Lolth before her exile, when she was the goddess Arashni, And when she betrayed her fellow Pantheon and home, Eilistraee decided to share in her exile and live with the drow, hoping to support them and provide her light to them. Now, this
Wolf
conflict
was a different goddess who betrayed.
Yeah. So as of right now, she's the head of the, as I said earlier, the Dalks. Oh wow, I can't speak today, my guy.
The what? The what?
The Dark Seldarin. Now
The Dolks, also known as the Dolks, apparently.
The Seldarin, just the basic Seldarin, not the Dark Seldarin, are the gods of the elves. The Dark Seldarin are the ones for the drow now, because her Lolth, previously Arashni, and the other drow deities kind of attacked and rebelled against the others. And for this, they were exiled. Now, this conflict of Eilistraee trying to change the culture of the drow is really an uphill battle, as pretty much the whole drow pantheon opposes her. Despite this, she doesn't back down, as she loves her people. Even her brother, who opposed Lolth as well, was not on her side.
Uh-oh.
He had many beliefs that stood directly opposed to her. He believed the drow were above all races, and fought for that end.
You know, their Christmas dinner table must be very, very complicated.
It definitely would be. Now, many stories have happened with her and the drow, such as when she took on her nephew as an apprentice. He was the son of her brother who worked against Eilistraee and made things hard for her. This nephew was called Selvatarum, and only left Eilistraee because Lolth tricked him. She had him face a demon who said he had control over spiders, which Lolth despised, as that was her domain. And when he defeated and gained the power of the demon, it was too corrupting, and Selvatarum actually became one of Lolth's champions. Lolth did this for multiple reasons, but one of the major ones is that she enjoyed the pain that it caused Eilistraee. Many things happened over time, where people would end up in the middle of the battle between Lolth and Eilistraee. One hoping to make a champion, and the other trying to stop them. Sometimes even fully changing them to their side. Gods joined these fights, and eventually, through trickery, Eilistraee was defeated by someone who believed she was a manifestation of Lolth. Now, because of the event that we talked about 2 episodes ago, the Second Sundering, she has returned and taken back her portfolio, despite dying earlier.
So wait, how popular are each of these gods in drow society, like in just D&D lore?
So if I had to do like a pie chart, I would say 75% or more Lolth.
Got it.
5% Veron, which is her brother, and like 5 or less for Eilistraee.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, like Lolth
She's not very popular.
super commanding. Yeah, because literally everything in their society, like all of the deities they worship, are like actively against her, and that makes it really hard what she's trying to do here.
Right, totally.
But she still does it because she loves the drow, like, so much. Like, she doesn't even have to be here. Like, she was, like, totally allowed to stay in the, like, quotation marks, good pantheon. But she purposely said, no, I know the drow are going to need me, especially with my mom leading them. I have to go there.
That could lead to some really fun, game, like, campaigns even, really.
Mm-hmm.
Of, like, helping drow society flourish under Eilistraee instead of Lolth.
Yeah. Now, when she returned, she actually returned alongside her brother, who she had vanquished previously. And as I said during those 2 episodes ago, the Second Sundering was kind of the event that was foretelling the beginning of 5th edition. And in 5th edition, Eilistraee and her brother, Veron, found an amicable way to live side by side. Now, they have both been present as avatars, which is what I said earlier was how gods in D&D kind of appear on the world in a kind of weaker form. And she has shown herself across many areas from Waterdeep to other major locations across Faerun. And I think that's all we really need to talk about for Eilistraee. There's a lot of like stories I could get into, but I feel like they're too long of just like talking about things that aren't super important or necessary for her story.
Aren't drow mostly evil in D&D? Is that right? Or
Yeah, that's part of the problem is that no sentient race is really all one thing.
right. Do they?
And it's not even really saying drow are evil. It's their culture that trains them that says this is what's good, this is what's bad.
Right. No, totally. Do they like? I don't know, like, because I don't know anything about any race or society in the D&D world, and they drow live like in the Underdark for the most part, right?
Yep.
And do they have like? Isn't it like the leaders are like all women and stuff like that, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's another thing. So Lolth is super. All men are terrible. Men suck. And now there are some male followers of Lolth that she's like, nah, you're okay. You're cool. You're clearly different. But like that's part of what a major part of
dominated.
Oh, it's 100%. It's a matriarchy down there. Now, her brother Veyron, who is Eilistraee's brother, that part of his thing is no, they're equal. Like no, men and women are. There's no one is not better than the other. One is not less than the other.
Got it. Okay, interesting.
So like Veyron has some good beliefs, but he also has enough bad ones that he literally will. He has caused such problems for Eilistraee, and it's like you really don't need to. Like you're kind of if you work a little bit, you could do some great things for the drow together.
So how do they then interact with the normal pantheon, like in current D&D time? Do they, or are they just like down there doing their thing?
They're really isolated, but Eilistraee is like super friends with Mystra, the goddess of magic.
Got it.
So they have connections to others, but
so they're like pen pals.
Yeah. Sure, let's go with that.
Hey, God bestie, how you doing? Gosh. Okay.
So, my idea for this creation is that we are going to create nations or groups that are bounded together by a common belief in a deity or whatever. Now, remember, all deities in this world were created based on enough people believing in something that then it created a deity of that.
Right. And it no longer can happen because the creation thing was shattered.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, thoughts? Do you have any initial thoughts that you wanted to go with?
No.
Okay, because I had two initial thoughts. Mm-hmm. One was to do like a basic god that, unites some group together. My second thought was to worship like the magical weave.
Say that again?
My second thought was to like have a society worship like the magical weave as like a god. And it unites them in magical endeavor or unites them in, I don't know, just...
So I thought last week we'd created stuff about magic.
We did for sure. But not...
You want to do that
so
again?
Much as like a... Oh, we don't have to, but that was just my other thought that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Because that could be interesting. Because we did create like that creature thing that was like developing into a god, I guess. So
yes, it was, and it was supposed to be like a god of magic, but magic didn't exist until the explosion that prevented people from creating gods just by thought.
Right.
I don't think there can be any other god of magic.
Okay. Well,
or we could make it of like the god of like divine magic. Because they saw that would be the only magic that existed on the world is magic that was given from gods that were already created. They could have started worshiping that, and there could be a god of divine magic.
Which could be interesting, but also
It could.
like I don't know. I don't even know what that would look like, to be honest.
Well, I think it could be like an over deity, which would be really funny because it would be created after the other deities, because it would only be able to be created after divine magic has existed on the world.
Which would be very, very interesting. Like the only way you could have divine magic is through the divine magic god. Would like
Yeah.
gods be limited
Or
and
like
have to give?
Hmm?
Well, I was saying, would gods who give magic to people, would it like also be partially through the divine magic god?
So I don't know if it would be through them, but I think they might gain control over it. Like, so
Like
they
there's a
could cut
divine
you
gate in the
off
sky
from
that
divine
pours down
magic. Like that, it's like think of it like an on-off switch. So it can't create its own energy, but what it can do is it could stop energy from being transferred.
Yeah, my thought was like a divine, like maybe even they called it like the divine gate, where the god who controls the divine gate can close and open divine magic to the world,
That's cool.
which would be very interesting. And maybe they worship
And
the
maybe,
divine gate.
yeah, maybe we even have at some point some crazy stuff happen and the divine gate gets shut down.
Which could be super interesting also.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even have
Or maybe
like,
that's like the start of the campaign. Like maybe that's like a major problem that has to happen is like, why is the divine gate shut? And so the divine gate shut, and so slowly healing is becoming less and less helpful. Like what they did with
like there used to be 12
Tomb of
level spells,
Annihilation.
now there's only ninth.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Tomb of Annihilation, where the whole point of Tomb of Annihilation is, hey, wow, I cannot speak today.
Oh man, oh,
Resurrection magic is no longer working. Why is that? So that's the whole premise of Tomb of Annihilation, is there's this staff that is stealing all healing magic, and anybody who's been resurrected is starting to feel the effects because they're slowly decaying like they should have when they died, but they got healed.
Interesting. See, now I have a problem with like limiting a player's.
Well, no, I don't think
like,
it would actually start limiting for a long time. It's like a slow crawl.
Yeah, which is why I think I like the idea of divine magic used to have blah 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 level spells, but now it's only up to ninth. You know, I think that's a really good way to do it, just because then it, there's still like an effect that's happened. But at the same time, I like the idea.
Would you want to open it up? Would you want that to be the goal of the campaign, is to make 10th, 11th, and 12th level spells?
I mean, sure, possibly. That could be fun. But maybe it, like, the worry is pretty soon all of the spells are going to be shut off and there is going to be no more divine magic. But why would the divine gate be closing?
Could the god be dying?
That was my thought. My other
If
thought
so,
was,
how are they dying?
Well,
Does that mean that all the gods are going to start dying? Which is actually a really interesting idea.
That is actually a super interesting idea. So I had two thoughts on this line. And one was connected to what we made last week. What if like those two gods, since they're like gods of magic, they're like the same entity, and because one has fallen to Earth and is like growing on Earth, like on the material plane, it's like taking the divine version of itself and like killing it. I don't know.
I was thinking a similar thing. No, I was thinking a similar thing. But what I was thinking is that I was thinking that was more not just between the two gods, but between all gods. And since this god of magic is like, I don't know whether it's growing or just stuff is happening with it at such a rate that it's taking the energy that is needed to sustain all gods upon itself. And so maybe to save the world, you have to like find a way to like convince it to purposely die or kill it yourself to make sure that, and it's still probably like at that time it'll probably still have that kind of like unknowing like mind, that kind of young, kind of still learning the world kind of mind, and you have to like take it out,
which I think could be really fun.
And the first signs of this are just that the like arcane gate and are like closing or slowing down. Maybe even magic is getting more powerful.
Well, that's my other thought was thinking like it's like swapping, like divine magic is getting worse and worse while arcane magic is getting more powerful and powerful.
Yeah.
Which could
I
be
like that.
super,
I think that's really
super,
cool. That's a
Yeah, I
really
do
cool
too.
story.
And you
Now,
have to like find this deity or entity.
Before we get
either A,
into
kill
that,
it.
because that's cool, but I think we should
Yeah.
save that for when we create that. But I think for now, so we know there's a god of divine magic.
Yep.
How does that work with, so when the sundering happens, who is combined or helped by that? Is it there is a collection of deities that kind of serve this divine magic god? So because of that, their nations that are created after that are kind of bound together because of this third or fourth god?
I don't know. That's a really good question.
Because I
If we
was
have-
seeing that there was a god that I was possibly going to talk about this week that is actually a culmination of three gods together.
And then but is actually one.
Yeah, and the lore of it kind of got confused to the point where technically those gods are not together anymore, but somehow it still exists, and people are confused by that.
What if we did something like that, where the arcane magic god, the divine magic god, and then I don't know, nature magic god or whatever, or like all
Maybe just the elements, gods of the elements. So the fire god, the nature god, and god of the earth.
There's just a lot of because there's a lot of elements that you could go off of.
Well, I know that's why that's
separate.
Well, no, but so people aren't going to praise and worship every element. So the ones that people believed in first, those three are the only ones that were ever created. Because after that, remember how we made it so there's only one pantheon on this world. Because after that, anybody who started to worship something close to their domains, they would reach out to and be like, "Hey, hello, I'm here. Worship me. My domain is actually this." So that they didn't create another god that would overlap with them.
Okay, interesting. What if we took that concept and applied it to magic? Could we do that? Like, could we do something like that? Where
What do you mean?
So we have it where like when the meteor or whatever smashed and destroyed the creation node or whatever and scattered magic across the earth, it was the final like act of creation by creating magic. I guess I don't really see gods being created from that though. Besides,
Yeah, it was I only really saw that arcane magic kind of creature being made by that.
Unless my other thought was like that creation node was itself the only entity that like existed, that creation energy, and when it broke, it created three separate: the arcane god, the divine magic god, and the nature magic god. But I think I like it was just like a creation energy that exploded more than anything else, and the final god that was created was the arcane thing. So,
and maybe like those three gods were the first gods that started to wane in power. People stopped worshiping them. So what they did, instead of dying out, because nobody knew what a god who stopped being worshipped, what was going to happen. So they were scared of death, and they said, why don't we combine? And they became this kind of multi-person godhood.
So yeah, I really like the idea of this like three parts, one god thing, which sounds very Christian, but
it does now that you say it that way. I didn't think about it that way, but
yeah.
But I don't think these things are anything like those three.
Nothing similar. No, not at all.
It just sounds like it is.
Like, yeah. I like the idea of these like parts coming together to be one whole thing to avoid something. But my question is do we want that to be part of this divine gate or totally separate? Because I see them probably more kind of separate.
Separate works.
Because like the divine gate, I think the divine gate should be like a couple things.
Maybe they feared it.
First, what was
Maybe
that?
they feared the divine gate.
Well,
Maybe they feared that, hey, we're not getting worshipped, we're losing our power. What if we get absorbed into the divine gate and it became like this thing of fear instead of what it was?
well, my other thought is what if like that meteor thing came from the divine gate, and so maybe like something's trying to close it in advance of another calamity happening, like to block things like that from happening again. Like maybe what we do.
See, I don't know if
maybe
I don't know if so. Okay, I thought the divine gate was just a like visual for a god. Like it's actually like a god. It just has a divine gate. But
I still see it that
if
way.
we
but
want
I
it
see
to
like a controller of it.
Yeah. So what I was thinking is the god of the divine gate literally crashed a meteor, was the one who did crash the asteroid into the creation energy, so gods could stop being created.
Right. That's kind of what I was. Well, that's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking.
It was, yeah.
So they shot it through the divine gate in order to like prevent, like we said earlier, prevent gods from being created. So that's where it came from.
So why do you see it happening again? Why would it want to release another asteroid? And
well, my thought is what if we did something totally different than
what? I mean, we could keep our other ideas.
Societies.
We could keep our other ideas if what it was trying to do is it's trying to throw an asteroid onto the planet to destroy the creature of magic, because it realizes if that dies, then
like
all the other gods won't die.
Magic, which could be interesting as well.
So it's like this drastic measure of, because it's probably going to also sunder the world and hurt a lot of people. So maybe the campaign is, one, stop this god from trying to do this catastrophe, and then once they find out why they were trying to do the catastrophe, try to solve it.
And I like that. I like that a lot. I think so. My couple thoughts on this were, what if we did something where like, but this it might be too primordial versus non-primordial, but what if we did like there's gods of the material plane versus gods that aren't in the material plane, and the gods of the material plane are trying to shut the divine gate, while the gods out of the material plane are trying to open the divine gate. The gods of the material plane are like part of this creation magic that was released, and they can help people with arcane energy, and then the divine people outside of the material plane give people divine energy through the divine gate. But then
let's not have the people on the planet be gods. Why don't we just have them be high-level arcane users, like high-level wizards, high-level sorcerers, stuff like that? Because they pretty much become like gods at that level.
Yeah, part of me just likes the idea of it's just this magical creation energy that gives people magic now, and there's just this little entity that wanders around that represents it, pretty much. I think I like that more.
Well, no, I definitely don't think that these wizards are giving anyone energy. I think they're just trying to open the divine gate, like you said.
Got it. What would these wizards... So these wizards are trying to open it for the purpose of...
I don't know.
Getting
I don't know why they were trying to open... I don't know why anybody was trying to open the divine gate, actually.
Yeah, I think the divine gate is open and is currently closing to avoid another catastrophe. So maybe these wizards are closing it because they figured out through research and study or whatever that...
Yes, okay, so that's I think that's what it is.
Came from there.
So the divine gate god is trying to send another meteor down to destroy this creature of magic. The people on the planet discover this, the like high-level wizards and sorcerers, so they are going and doing this crazy ritual to kind of close it to prevent that from happening, not realizing that all the gods are currently going to lose their power if this thing keeps growing. So then the party comes in the middle of this, seeing both sides and what they're doing, and will have to find a way to solve the dying god problem.
Which I think is a really fun, interesting idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I even think, like, maybe we have a nation that's developed around these wizards or these, like, sorcerers. Like, they're like a magocracy. That'd be fun. I don't know. But then I would also see, like, a lot of people who would want the divine gate to be open to keep their divine magic if they knew about it anyways. And then the other thing is what would the divine gate look like? Like, is it a moon in the sky? Is it like a light that shines at night and then disappears when the sun comes out? Like, is it something like that? Like, do we see it? Do we not see it? Like, maybe across the southern hemisphere of the sky is like Aurora Borealis, and it's getting dimmer and dimmer, and that represents the gate.
What if there's a second moon? Or maybe it's not even a moon. Maybe it's not even a celestial. Maybe it literally just looks like there's a golden gate in the sky behind the moon.
I like that, but I also don't like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like the idea of it being like a literal, like an actual, like, it looks like a gate, sort of. But I think I like the idea of it being more of like a representation in like a celestial body, you know?
Mm-hmm. Question.
Answer.
Could it be a second sun?
First
I kind of like that.
No, I'm kidding.
Ha ha ha, you're so funny. Ha ha. Oh, got him.
I had to pull it. That's something you would say, okay? Don't make fun of me for that.
I'll make fun of you all I want for it.
Don't make me turn this podcast around. Even though our internet already did that for us. Dramatically.
It 100% did.
I like that. I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like two suns, each one representing a different side of magic, I think would be really cool.
Oh, that's not what I was meaning.
Okay.
I was meaning one sun is a regular. It's just the sun. That's it. The second one is the divine gate.
Got it. Which I still love a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go full on, we could have two moons as well, and the second moon is the arcane magic. And maybe they're both getting really dimmer in the sky. I like
that option for sure.
That's how we know that they're weakening. But they don't. The people on the earth don't know that the reason why they're weakening is because of this creature.
Right, but the divine gate sun is getting dimmer, and the arcane moon is getting dimmer. I think is really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And even maybe like ancient texts. This is not.
You can continue. Ancient texts.
I was gonna say maybe even like ancient texts and stuff like hint at there only being one sun and one moon throughout humanoid history.
Oh, the early parts of history had only one of each. Yep.
Right.
I definitely think.
Like
I definitely
ancient
think
depictions.
That could be a fun thing. Now,
for sure. Okay. Well, we created this.
Yeah, this is so different. That this is not where it's like. Oh. We didn't create a nation at all. We just created the whole story of the whole story arc of our campaign.
Oh man, we
okay.
It really divulged, man. It was really. Oh,
so
boy,
these two groups so one is clearly led by the god of the divine gate. Is there anything?
Yes.
Is there any who is leading / what is leading the group on the surface?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think I want it to be the arcane entity. I think that's just its own thing.
Yeah, I think that's its own thing. I think it's living its own life until it gets brought into this. Like, hey, you're causing this. I know you don't know you're causing this, but you are.
Which could partially make it even sadder for like people who are trying to like figure out what's going on.
Save it.
This guy's just totally innocent.
Oh, 100%. But he has to die for it, which is going to be a super cool moment for the party when they're like, oh, crap. This guy is not doing anything on purpose. He's not a villain in any way. He just, by existing, is causing these things to die.
Right. Which is just awful. It's awful. But I don't know who I want leading this. Like, do we... Like, we're talking about sorcerers and wizards of some kind. Is it some sort of arcane college? Is it some sort of...
Mageocracy?
Yeah, I like mageocracy, but at the same time...
Question.
I mean, answer.
Could it be a mageocracy, but one that died thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago? So... They I don't know if because their job was so important that they kind of kept their souls trapped in something, and some archaeologists, those are very different people.
Very different.
Some archaeologists discovered it, and then they said, hey, this is the problem. You need to help us solve this.
I
Or
like that.
are they literal ghosts that their job was just so important that they literally willed themselves not to die?
I like that too.
There's also another thing that I heard recently. I think it was on a TikTok where it was on an amazing podcast. It's one of my favorites called Friends at the Table. It's a real play podcast.
Oh yeah.
And they have this opening where the opening is always done kind of voiced by a god, and he's just kind of talking about the craziness of the story going on. And so he said, now people always wonder how ghosts are created. Is somebody have such a strong will that they just will themselves to hold on, or is it a vengeance that they need vengeance and they survive? And he's like, no, that's not it. If a ghost needs vengeance or something like that, that's a 1 in a million case. But the reason why a ghost is ever there afterwards is because there was too many to take up at that time. Somebody just got lost in the shuffle.
Oh gosh.
So, if there is something in the world that, like, a bunch of people died, and so some ghost just happened to be left, what could that have been if that's where we want to go with ghosts?
Okay, first of all, I love that idea a lot. I love the idea of, like, ghosts are people who just didn't make it.
Yeah, there was just so many people dying at the same time that they just got left.
And this is going to be awful, but my thought is there's a couple ways that this could happen. One, these wizards and sorcerers did it on purpose to escape death, because they figured it out.
Hold on. I like that. I love that idea. But so in this world where the only way ghosts are left is when too many people die and somebody gets left, these, like, powerful arcane people decided we have to kill so many people that one of us, so, like, all of us have to die at the same time. So hopefully, just literally begging on, like, the smallest bit of hope that one of us will be forgotten and left as a ghost.
Yeah.
That's horrifying, and I love it.
And my thought is we do the very classic arcane floating city, and they launch themselves into the divine gate and just burn everyone to cinders.
Well, because I want it to be someplace that they could literally, like, find.
Oh, well, it crashes. Yeah, it crashes.
But
like,
how do you crash? You said they crashed into the sun. How is it going to be on the planet then?
Well, they don't make it to the sun. They die. They die before that, and it just falls to the earth in a flaming ruin.
Huh.
Like, so my thought is like, these powerful wizards of the society convince the society that we can close this divine gate by literally blocking it with our own city, with our flying, like, with our people and our, like, magics, by flying us up there and stopping it. And they all die doing so. My other thought is they just massacre them all, but I don't know if I want to go that dark.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking they crash their city, hoping that one of them will be left.
Like, they just drop the city down onto the ground and blow up, and we're all done.
Yes. So that,
but here's my thing.
I like to think that they were hoping beyond hope that please have it be one of the researchers. Please have it be one of these high up people or somebody. And it's like Justice Apprentice. He knew what was going on, but not well. And he's like, he just happened to be the one that ended up being left.
Okay, but what if we do something different and we make this event the start of the campaign? Like this event recently happened, and there's, like, investigations going on and diving into these ruins to figure out what the heck happened, instead of, like, ancient old news.
I don't see why they would do it then. What I'm thinking, well, because there's no reason to kill yourself if you could just tell other people.
You could do that.
So what I'm thinking is,
but my thought is that they thought they were the only ones powerful enough to do so.
Then why would they kill themselves
behind? because like they want their power to continue.
What
to
I'm
live
thinking
on.
is it was not fully prehistoric, but it's like early enough that the world does not have advanced technologies. The world has not had many advancements in magic. These were the highest technologically advanced people of their time, and they knew they just had to wait until there was somebody, like till the world was strong enough or whatever. Which is still a dumb reason, but because you could just tell your kids and you could keep developing technology. But I don't know.
My thought is that these wizards or sorcerers they think that they are the only entities that are powerful enough and capable enough to do such a thing, but they haven't quite figured it out yet. And so they have to crash their city so that they can keep on living, continue their discoveries and their power.
Do they protect their city in any way so other people can't come on?
I don't know. We could
because if they don't, that's fine. But I think one of the things is I would want to save these ghosts for a higher level. Now, one of the cool things that I think of a way we could do that is that there was this Pinterest homebrew that I saw of these different demons. They're called war demons, and they each come because of a different, like, they're drawn to these emotions and bloodshed. So based on what's happening, you could get a different demon, and by a higher, like, more people dying, more people fighting, you could have a higher CR demon be summoned. Even though that's not the intent of these wars, it just happens. And so if something like this is a part of our world where these demons are drawn to death and drawn to negative emotions, the reason why the party won't find these ghosts until later is because there are these demons that have now taken up residence nearby as there was all this death.
Well, okay. Here's kind of a thought that I was having with this. And maybe we don't exactly come up with the reason today about why they did what they did.
Yeah.
Because it might take a little bit of thinking to do so, because we really have to think of
it seems
why would they assume that, they're the only ones who could do this, or why would they, kill everyone?
Yeah, and how would killing them give them advantages? That's so on and so on.
But instead, I think the more important thing to discuss, because we're creepy, is how did they do it? And my thought is these wizards had to die just after everyone else in order to miss the boat, right? So to speak. So what if they crashed their city into the sea to drown everyone while they gave themselves like rudimentary magic to breathe longer than everyone else before they all drowned and died? And now we have
it's like an Atlantis situation.
Yeah.
Or maybe even call it Atlantis and then have that be why Atlantis went. That's fantastic. I love that.
So like,
because they knew they had to die after everyone else.
Yes, and they have rudimentary magics. Like, they were the only ones who did. Like, if we're going with late, like ancient magic times, magic's just starting. They gave themselves a slight advantage to breathe underwater for a short period of time, where everyone else did not. So they all died just before them, and then they died directly after.
I love that.
Guaranteeing their ghosts.
That's fantastic.
To haunt the ocean floors, searching for a way to close the divine gate or whatever. Just horribly haunting.
Yeah, horribly haunting and fantastic at the same time.
Yeah, true.
I am going to call it there.
Yep.
Thank you all for listening to episode 74 of Dungeoneered. Just so you know, I just found that Spotify now has a review, or at least rating. I don't think it has anywhere you can write a review, but you can rate podcast. So we'd love to have you rate us on there. You could rate us and review us on Apple Podcast. All of it helps, and we would appreciate it very much. Golly, that threw me off a bit. So now I'm trying to figure out.
Golly,
what do I normally say? If you want to write to
email us.
Yes, thank you. If you want to write to us, you could write to us at dungeoneered@hotmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas for topics, lukewarm opens, just want to chat with us or want to tell us something cool you made or something cool we made that inspired you, we'd love to hear it all.
Golly, we sure would love to hear it.
Gee whiz, we would.
Gee whiz.
Yesterday I said hogwash. And yesterday I said hogwash.
Why?
Oh, no, sorry. It was hullabaloo.
Oh,
and somebody was like, why? Who says that anymore? And I'm like, I guess I do.
Josh, you're truly an old soul. And you're also the sharpest barrel in the bunch.
Hey, don't steal my line.
No, I'm going to steal it.
What do you have anything else to add, Aaron?
No, but I thought you were going to tell me a joke, and I got really excited, and then you just didn't, so.
Well, as I always say, always remember to be the sharpest barrel in the bunch. See you next time.
Bye.